Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London. Coming up on today's show, the UK and France agree a new migrant returns deal, but will it actually stop the boats? I'll be joined by our Downing Street correspondent Simon Puzy with the latest. And British, not Nigerian, Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch is facing criticism once again on both sides of the Atlantic after distancing herself from Nigeria in a controversial podcast appearance. I'll be speaking to author and historian Dele Ogun about the backlash. Then later we unpack this week's biggest business headlines, including Trump's new 100% tariff plans, delays at Virgin Galactic and a public health warning in New York City. But first, Prince Harry has been cleared of bullying allegations by the UK Charity Commission after a bitter public fallout with the leadership of his co-founded charity, Symbolic. The Commission found no evidence of systemic bullying or overreach by the Duke, who resigned from the board earlier this year alongside Prince Seeiso of Lesotho. However, the decision allows current chair Sophie Chattanooga and her board to remain in place, a move insiders say has left Harry emotionally devastated. The Duke's allies have criticised the lady for invoking the memory of Princess Diana in her post-ruling statement, calling it deeply inappropriate. Harry is said to believe the dispute has damaged the charity's mission to support children affected by HIV/AIDS in southern Africa. Despite the setback, the Duke has pledged to continue supporting the region through other means, calling Centre Barley's collapse a painful end to what he once described as his life's work. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has defended his plans to recognise a Palestinian state, but insists the move would not legitimise Hamas or reward terrorism. Starmer says the UK could formally recognise Palestine by September, provided Israel agrees to key conditions, including a ceasefire in Gaza, humanitarian access, and renewed talks towards a two-state solution. He described a sense of revulsion in Britain over the suffering in Gaza, saying the images of starvation and civilian loss are unimaginable. His remarks have sparked diplomatic backlash from Israel and drawn criticism from some British Jewish communities. A protest is expected in London this weekend, with demonstrators demanding the release of hostages before any formal recognition can take place. Starmer, however, remains firm. He said Hamas must play no part in Palestine's future and that recognition is not a concession to extremism, but a step toward long-term peace. Still, the move has opened a new fault line in UK foreign policy, balancing growing public pressure with humanitarian action and securing concerns about Britain's historic support for Israel. In other news, the UK and France have signed a new migration treaty, allowing Britain to return small boats' arrivals across the Channel, but critics warn the deal may be more symbolic than effective. Under the agreement, the UK can send asylum seekers back to France, but only if it accepts a matching number of applicants in return. The arrangement is being described as a reciprocal deal, with both sides given the power to approve or veto individual returns. However, the numbers are small. Just 50 migrants per week are expected to be exchanged, roughly 1 in every 17 people currently arriving by boat. And with more than 25,000 crossings recorded this year alone, critics argue it's unlikely to meaningfully deter people smugglers or reduce overall arrivals. The deal is due to expire next June and can be suspended or cancelled at short notice. The Home Office insists the plot will be supported by a robust legal framework, but ministers admit human rights appeals could delay or block returns. For more on how the policy will work in practice and what it means for UK border control, I was earlier joined by our Downing Street correspondent Simon Puzy. Simon, so on Thursday morning, the UK Prime Minister announced that the first set of migrants under this UK-France treaty have been detained. We're not sure if this is Rwanda deportation 2.0 under another name. Talk to me about the details.
Yeah, so I think what Sir Keir Starmer would say is that they are trying, unlike he would say the Conservatives, they are trying to do this in partnership with France and other European countries to try and have some kind of joined up approach to the migrant crisis. Obviously, their slogan is "Smash the gangs," whereas the previous government's was that they were going to stop it completely.
Stop the boats. Stop the boats.
And so Sir Keir Starmer has decided that the only way to do that is really to work with France, Emmanuel Macron, and Europe to try and get to the bottom of these gangs. But also, there needs to be an approach where you send migrants back to stop them coming over in the first place. That they see that. The critics are saying, pointing out there's tiny numbers in comparison with those that are coming over. Only around 50 a week, apparently, could be sent back under this scheme.
Detained first.
And they need to be detained first. And 25,000 people have come over since the start of the year. So this is a drop in the ocean, even if they do end up sending 50 people back. They're also saying that there are some loopholes within the legislation itself, whereby migrants could stay. The whole problem, I think, is the the Human Rights Act, the European Human Rights Act, that the government is bound to be by unless we leave, really ties their hands. And I think the main problem that we're seeing in terms of public opinion is the hotels, and the fact that people are struggling here, wages are dropping, prices are rising, and yet illegal migrants are being put up in hotels. They are hamstrung by that, by the European Court of Human Rights and everything that we're bound by that. So I think that's one problem. I think another problem is just public opinion thinking that illegal migration and these small boats is a bigger problem statistically than it is. Now, it's a big problem, but it's only applies to about 3.9% of migration in total.
Yes.
This is not, if you want to get migration down, you want to get legal migration down, because it's such a tiny...
The headlines are sensational.
But I think people don't realise that, and I think that's the problem the government have, is it's such a hard thing to stop happening when you've got huge wars happening across the world and increasingly happening, and you don't have a huge border force, and neither does France. It's what can you do, right? And then you're bound by... So I think Sir Keir Starmer's in a difficult position here, especially when he comes out with slogans before the election of, we're going to smash the gangs, we're going to tackle this problem. And actually it's only increased, but it's only been increasing for decades, right? This is not something that has gone up under Labour. It's been going up exponentially for the last few years. So I think it's a real problem for Labour, and it's something that I can't see them changing really. And unfortunately, I think public opinion is going to grow and grow, unless the economy somehow does a 360 and starts to work really well for Sir Keir.
Yes, you're right. I'm going to be speaking about Kemi Badenoch after the break. But this morning she did tweet about Uber drivers, Deliveroo drivers. That's been a big thing here in the UK recently in terms of the public, because apparently lots of these last mile logistic drivers are undocumented migrants. There have also been some protests in areas such as Essex, where there's been accusations that young children are being followed home by migrants who are living in these hotels. That's what the public are talking about. They're not talking about this UK-France treaty.
No, they're not. And I think the problem is that as the problem grows, you will get more stories, true or not, about that. And people
the Uber Deliveroo driver story.
Well, it is
pretty true.
Well, I think that is true. But then again, would you rather they weren't working and they weren't adding to society? And who's going to do those jobs, right? The only reason they're doing those jobs is because English people won't do those jobs. So I think these kind of examples and these protests outside hotels are only going to grow unless the root cause starts to go the other way. And then
development in the developing world.
Well, yeah, exactly. And how do you do that? Or unless the UK people's conditions start to improve, unless people's wages start to rise, unless conditions start to get better here. And these are two huge kind of like things that you can't just fix overnight, do you? So I think there's a big
We've not reached the ice.
No, I don't
far
think so.
Right extreme.
But I think there's quite a PR job for Sir Keir and the Labour Party to be doing, and I don't think they're doing it very well in terms of what are they actually getting done. We're not seeing, pictures of people being sent back. We're not seeing, seeing pictures of people being arrested, but we are seeing
a reduction in numbers.
Yeah, we are seeing pictures of big hotel, people sort of protesting outside hotels, and then people labelling them as racist. And I think the opinion around that will start to switch, if it hasn't already, in that actually we're just looking for fairness and for people who are legally living in this country.
Not two-tier policing.
Well, that is what they'll say. So I think it's a really, really tough problem for Sir Keir Starmer and Labour, and it's not one that the Conservatives did very well, and it's a long-term problem.
Still ahead on Channel's Business Global, Kemi Badenoch says she no longer identifies as Nigerian. Her comments have sparked outrage in Lagos and London. I'll be joined by Dele Ogun to unpack the reaction, and we break down the week's biggest business stories, from Trump's 100% chip tariffs to Virgin Galactic's delayed space mission. All of this after the break. Do stay with us.